Hello everyone, it's Sam Bellier over at Scorpio Rising Astrology, and we are here again with another weekly forecast. Lots of interesting stuff happening in the skies this week, so let's move to the aspects. As always, just keep in mind that these are recorded aspects from my position in Tampa, Florida in Eastern Standard Time. So make sure to adjust your personal time zone with these aspects, and then also feel free to check the information below this video in the description, and you'll see a list of all the aspects and times that I mention. Unfortunately, I can't upload the Word document to YouTube. Haven't figured that one out yet, but I'm sure it will come eventually. So let's dive into what our week holds for us. Okay, so here we are, my lovely little Word document. Let's start with Monday, which is always a good place to start. So Monday, June 15th, we have evening trials. We have 3 aspects in the evening. 2 of them are harsh. Squares are harsher aspects, so there will be some friction on Monday evening, especially when Aries and Capricorn fight, there's going to be disagreements that are stubborn in nature, but then we also have the Moon in Aries making a sextile to the Sun in between. So there is a little bit of assistance, a little bit of aid, and it often comes in the form of communication. So as long as you're able to openly communicate, the hard truths will be easier to swallow, and those evening trials on Monday will be able to be averted. We do not have really great sleep opportunities for a couple reasons. One, the evening aspects are somewhat stressful, but then the Moon making a trine to the North Node is a little bit, or trine to the South Node rather, in Sagittarius is a little bit jarring in the middle of the night. We don't really enjoy that aspect. However, Tuesday's a really funny energy, whereas all of our aspects were in the evening on Monday, all of the aspects are in the morning on Tuesday. So we have 3:49. And another reason why sleep isn't necessarily favorable is you don't like to see the Moon making aspects to, especially the South Node, which is known as a detrimental point to a certain degree, in the middle of the night at 3:49 a.m. The Moon will shift into Taurus, though, which is the sign of her exaltation. She loves to be in Taurus. A Moon in Taurus is really good for being practical, slightly lazy, very enjoying of life's delights and pleasures. However, the Moon will also square retrograde Saturn in Aquarius first thing. So getting up on Tuesday might be a little bit rough, but once you overcome that, then the Moon in Taurus goes unaspected for the rest of the day until midnight on technically Wednesday morning. So we have this good Taurus energy pulling us through the week, really allowing us to choose on Tuesday specifically how, when, and where to just like chill and not pick fights that are technically detrimental to your experience, that you could always save for a later date. I think that's what the retrograde Saturn square is telling us, is like, hey, just in case you weren't aware, if there is a problem, you don't need to solve it immediately. There is an idea of these problems being noted and then tackled at a later date. So that's a thing. Poor sleep conditions again, because we have the 2:15 a.m. Conjunction with Uranus. Not technically a bad aspect. Uranus is that planet of upheaval. Yeah, change can be good, change can be positive, but we don't want change at 2:15 in the morning or 12:15 in the morning. Like that's excessive. And Uranus, in my experience, when Uranus is aspected in the middle of the night like this, it definitely gives that Uranian kind of jolt of lightning to the sleep state, which isn't ideal for like rest. We also have at 12:59 a.m. Mercury stationing in Cancer. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the term retrograde, Mercury will be going retrograde this week. However, Mercury first stations or slows down for a couple days before officially appearing to go backwards in the sky. We'll talk about Mercury retrograde as we go into Friday, but at the same time, right now, Mercury is slowing down to station on Wednesday. And then we have an 11 a.m. aspect and an 11 a.m. aspect in the AM and PM. The Moon in Taurus will make a sextile to Mercury and then a sextile to Neptune. It gives us a nice kind of watery, laid back day on Wednesday. So if we can avoid like the bumpy night and really make sure that we sleep through that Uranus conjunction, then Wednesday will actually be somewhat emotional, but also a really nice kind of take it easy, take it slow day, because everybody will be focused on things that are a little bit personal. They won't be as production oriented. And that's something with the moon in Taurus in general. Taurus tends to be using the least amount of energy to get the most amount done. So being aggressive or tackling of certain tasks isn't the priority during a Taurus moon. Sleep will be good Wednesday to Thursday, specifically because we've got the moon in Taurus sextiling Neptune at 11. Neptune is the sleepy planet, and we like to see the sleepy planet being positively aspected by the moon late at night. That's a good thing for sleep. However, Thursday is going to be our best day of the week astrologically. This is where we're going to get a lot of actual assistance, is the name of the day that I kind of coined it, because we have, although all of the planets that are making positive aspects to the moon are technically retrograde, except for the Mars at 5:15 a.m., the idea that we have so many positive aspects to the moon in one day is just going to be a good day. So I really think Thursday is going to be our best day this week. If you want to plan something productive, do it for Thursday. We do have a difference in energies in the morning and in the evening. So the morning will still be ruled by that Taurus moon. So we're going to have that earthy energy, that fixed earth energy of Taurus kind of trudging us forward. Again, not really domineering or taskmaster oriented, going to be slow, going to be steady, going to win the race at our own pace. Yeah. Then the moon goes into Gemini at 5 p.m. Yeah. And when we move from fixed earth into mutable air, from Taurus to Gemini, that energy changes dramatically. So around 5 p.m. on Thursday, there's going to be this kind of breath of fresh air. There's going to be this movement-oriented wind that's going to be behind our sails. So I think that that's going to kick us out of our funk and start to kind of uptick our energy as we move into the weekend. Friday, we have the realization of needed realizations. I like this title for a couple reasons. You know, we have the Mercury retrograde in Cancer. For those of you who follow astrology and know your natal chart, Mercury, the planet of the mind, will be going retrograde in your Cancer house. So that's going to be the house or the area of life that this retrograde will affect you in. So we want to be mentally processing everything that Mercury is telling us to process in that particular area of our lives. As an example, Cancer rules my 9th house of travel, foreigners, higher education, and so I'm going to be reevaluating these topics. I'm going to be using Mercury, the planet of the mind, going backwards, that reflective principle, that kind of rehashing of things on a mental level in that particular house of my chart. So if you don't know your house placements, it might be a good idea to consult with an astrologer to figure out where this Mercury retrograde is going to affect you and what that means for you specifically. Then we have the moon conjoining retrograde Venus in Gemini. So Venus has been retrograding for a good chunk of time now. She's been moving backwards through Gemini, causing lots of interesting things to pop up communication-wise, but the moon will be conjoining Venus in Gemini, I believe, for the second time. And so the moon conjoining Venus in Gemini at the same time that Mercury is retrograding in Cancer, there's this idea of we're bringing to light all of these retrograde motions in the chart, especially with Thursday having all of the retrograde aspects. This week, and specifically Thursday and Friday, are going to be very lesson focused. So I really think we need to turn on our ears Thursday and Friday, be aware of omens, be aware of signs, maybe do some reflective or divination or journaling practices on those days to really make sure that the lessons sink in, because they are important, but especially during Thursday and Friday, they're going to be very, very present in our awareness. And then the sun is going to conjoin the north node, which is going to be really fun. The north node is that point of striving in the chart. And again, we look to Gemini, the Gemini house in your chart, for what that means for you specifically. But the idea of the sun conjoining the north node really gives the ego a sense of purpose, a sense of drive. And this happens right before the sun jumps ship into Cancer and kind of changes the chapter of our energetic year. So that's going to be a nice shift, but it's definitely after we get all these realizations on Thursday and Friday, we move into this point of clarity that the sun brings literal light to, but also metaphysical light to, and we get this nice kind of bump of moving forward. Oh goodness, that should not say regret. That was from last week. Anyway, we'll ignore that title for 2 seconds. And maybe I'll think of a title in a couple seconds. So we have on Saturday some interesting aspects, and I'm not really like super focused on Saturday because Sunday is where the action's at, and we'll get to that in a second. But the idea of Saturday having a couple really nice aspects, but a couple not nice aspects. Mars and Pisces making a sextile to Jupiter. Jupiter rules Pisces and Mars is in Pisces, so there is a little bit of reception. Unfortunately, the aspect happens in the early morning, so we really don't get to enjoy it unless your time zone is different. Saturday is going to be a sleepy morning because the moon in Gemini will square Neptune. Again, Neptune is that sleepy planet, but do we want a sleepy planet squaring the moon, which is a harsh aspect at 9 a.m.? When we're supposed to be kind of waking up and starting our day? No, it's going to be a lazy Saturday. There will often be a lot of confusion and lateness on Saturday. So if you have events planned for Saturday morning, expect them to go wrong. Just, not like I'm manifesting that they go wrong subconsciously because Sam said so, because the stars say so, like not that kind of stuff. But on Saturday, if you look back at the forecast and you're like, wow, why is everybody so confused? Why is everybody running late? Why are things not the way that they should be? There's this square between the moon and Neptune making things really confusing. In the evening, the sun moves into Cancer, which the sun moves through these signs once a month-ish. And we have the sun moving into Cancer, which definitely creates a shift in energy, just like the moon changes signs, but the sun changes signs much slower. The moon stays in a sign maybe every couple days, so it's kind of an emotional flux, an ebb and a flow that takes place over time. But when we look at the sun changing signs, this is a flipping of a monthly chapter. So the sun moving from airy Gemini into watery Cancer gives us an elemental shift that really tells us that the sun is intensifying. He's entering a cardinal sign. He's about to enter his home sign of Leo, so his energy is rising. There's a lot of really great stuff about the sun moving into Cancer, but it also gives the sun a very watery edge, a very protective motherly energy that Cancer brings forward. So the ego is feeling a little bit nurturing as of Saturday evening. Then the moon squares, the moon in Gemini squares Mars and Pisces. This is going to be a little bit of a problematic aspect. So as that protective energy starts to surge, we might find that we are prone to biting people's heads off on Saturday. And all of this, we're going to say it's misplaced aggression. Because the moon in Gemini, Mars, and then Neptune, it's just this idea of stop, go, ebb, flow, but they're kind of going in the wrong direction at the same time. So that's what we're officially titling Saturday as misplaced aggressions. No, we won't say aggressions, we'll say actions, misplaced actions. Yes, that's much better, cleaner. Then we go to Sunday, which is kind of the star of our week because we have a major astrological event. And I titled Sunday the way that I did, and you can see it kind of on the screen, but also you'll see it in the description. You could interpret Sunday as one of two ways. You could say Sunday is or you could say Sunday is either one appropriate. So the big reason for this is because we have a new moon solar eclipse. In Cancer, the sun and the moon are conjoining, but they're conjoining near the north node in Gemini. And because they're conjoining near the north node, that is a solar eclipse. So a lot of in magical practice, we specifically know that eclipses are malefic events. It's when one planet blocks out the light of another. It's kind of like a siege. Yeah, somebody is stepping in front of you and stealing your stage. And in this case, the moon is moving in front of the sun and blocking the sun's light. Now, this doesn't occur in a visible way for us. It does occur at 2:41 a.m. In fact, 3 of our aspects are going to be in the early morning. And then we have a little bit of that Uranian energy to round out our week with that shocking experience of Moon in Cancer sextiling Uranus. But I think the solar eclipse in Cancer is just something to be aware of. Eclipses are notoriously points of massive change, especially as we move forward through everything that we've been through already this year. I think the Moon in Cancer eclipse is going to realize, how it's going to help us realize how human we actually are. I think it's going to open up the heart center of a lot of people. I think it's going to kind of crack open and help to bleed out any stagnant emotions. But I also think it's going to be a time of great change. I think it's going to be a turning point. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting shifts and movements. And it's when I say these things and then you have conversations with your friends leading up to this astrological event, a lot of people are pivoting. A lot of people are changing directions. A lot of people are having all these massive realizations that these retrogrades are teaching us, that these astrological events are teaching us. And this eclipse is kind of one of the big ones that really tells us, like, hey, pay attention. Hey, you can't do the same thing that you were doing before. Hey, we need to take it to the next level. We need to evolve. We need to grow. We need to shift. We need to do something. And the solar eclipse is that point of massive clarity in Cancer that we can really kind of bank on for shaking things up, but also really making sure that we understand where our energy is placed and why. So that is our week. I hope that you have once again enjoyed the forecast for the week. This is our second YouTube forecast. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you have any feedback from last week or any questions about aspects that you might not understand. As always, I'm always here if you have questions. You can shoot me an email to sam@scorpiorisingastrology.com, or if you would like to learn astrology or maybe schedule a consult, you can do that through my website as well. And until next week, may the stars be ever in your favor.